Hello, Concordia Accelerated Education students. Dr. Poppy here. I want to take you through our process and expectations for the clinicals that you will be engaging in here throughout this semester. Certain clinicals have slightly modified expectations. You'll be able to see all of these listed within the modules in our course, but I wanted to give you a little bit of verbal support here. So you can begin these clinicals once you have had your background check approved. Some of you may have had your background check approved last semester. Others of you will need to do that here first. If you don't know whether or not you've been approved, it's likely that you have not. So just make sure that you go through that process and you can check with us if we have you on that list. So as we look at this process, a couple things. Within each of these clinicals, you are going to need to be approved for the experience that you're going to do. You cannot begin this process unless you have that background check accomplished. The approval plan is necessary for any of the clinicals, the discovery clinical, cultural clinical, special ed, reading, all those kinds of things. So the form is identical for the various approval plans. So this is going to look the same. Big picture. Your cooperating teacher you're going to work with needs to have an active teaching license in that area. So if you're going to work with a second grade teacher, that teacher needs to have an active license for teaching that grade level. As we think about the various experiences, the discovery clinical is by far the most broad, meaning that it can be in many different settings. And so there's a lot more flexibility there. When we think of the cultural clinical, and we've modified this over the years, for those of you that your primary experience growing up as a learner was in an area that many of the individuals that went to those schools or where you live are of a particular ethnicity, we want you to get a different experience. So it's a cultural experience. And so generally, if we're going to go to a different environment, we want that other environment to have over 50% individuals that are of a different ethnicity, or perhaps you're used to a rural setting that you would go to an urban setting, or if you're used to an urban setting, you go to a rural or suburban setting. So we can have conversations about what that is, but we don't want to, for the cultural clinical, to go to a school that is something that we're very familiar with. We want this to be an opportunity to stretch yourself. For the special education clinical, that cooperating teacher does need to be somebody who has a license in an area of special education. There are a variety of licenses that can cover that, but it does need to be specific to special education. Any of these cooperating teachers need to have a minimum of 3 years of teaching experience and have been in that school or that district for at least 1 year. On this form, you will also see an opportunity for you to list your cooperating teacher's license number and then when that license expires. That is an important part of our compliance. So when we do our due diligence and you've submitted this, and we do a little bit of checking to make sure that this cooperating teacher measures up to what the state says, we need those pieces from you. So please make sure you do that. You may not begin any of these clinicals until the approval plan has been approved by one of us. Our typical process is to send an email to that cooperating teacher after you've submitted this document to us in Blackboard, and we'll copy you on that, and just for that cooperating teacher to send back to us saying, yep, we will gladly host this Concordia student, and then you can begin. So each of these experiences in this particular semester, and it varies from semester to semester, but for this particular one, it's going to be 15 hours each. All right, so in the discovery clinical, these are some prompts that you're going to be responding to, and the document that you're going to see within the discovery clinical, you're going to see some helpful definitions for words in here that may seem a little bit unique and new to you. These prompts reflect something that the state used to require called the EdTPA. You should be grateful that you don't have to do that anymore. We do some other assessments that count in place of it, but when you see the rubrics that are listed here, that's in reference to the EdTPA. But Each of these opportunities that you're going to be in the field do have a document within the folder for that clinical that gives you the prompts that you're going to respond to. There's always going to be a typed reflection that you will write to articulate your learning from that experience. Please make sure that after that, as you've written those, that you do proofread those, read them aloud to yourself, have a loved one read it. We do want to be communicating ourselves well as teachers. One of our main duties as we get into the field is to communicate with parents. And we want to represent ourselves as individuals that can write well, communicate well. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for us to do that. Our next piece that is part of this clinical process is as you go to that school and you engage in your hours, you're going to be keeping track of those hours. And so this document is the clinical log. This is also available for you up in Blackboard. You're going to have your host teacher sign off each time that you are there. The way in which you accomplish the hours is entirely up to you, meaning that for some of you, it may work well to do 1 hour on a particular day, and others of you will just do the whole day. However you need to do it within your schedule, that is just fine. Again, any of these clinicals can be accomplished right near home for you, potentially with the exception of the cultural clinical if you need to drive further away to get that varied experience. But this is a document that needs to be uploaded as an assignment within our course. And then lastly, your host teacher is going to submit, you're going to have them fill out this clinical form for us, where they're going to be assessing how you have done in that classroom. There are certain things that here you say is prepared for class instructional planning. You may not be planning any instruction. These are early clinicals where you're going to be primarily observing, but we'd love for you to have some opportunity to engage with students, because that's what this is all about, to make sure this is what you want to do. Being a teacher is a wonderful profession, a vocation from God, but it's challenging at times. And so we want to make sure this is something that is in line with the gifts that God has given you. But this is a requirement for you to submit. And big picture, those 4 documents, the approval plan, your reflection that you do, the clinical log, and the host teacher evaluation are the 4 pieces that you will submit to show that you have adequately accomplished these clinicals. And again, we're always here to help you out, so don't hesitate to send us an email. If you're going to send it to me, it's adam.poppy@cuw.edu. And I think that's all that we need to say for now. So take care, God bless, and enjoy your clinicals.